Look, the 250K tournament was yesterday, so we'll start off the stream discussing this because we'll discuss it as it goes, but I want to go through and kind of talk about this now. There's no way for me to really look. They haven't actually put the qualifiers up quite yet on any of the consoles. The reason being is it usually takes them a few days to do this because they have to DQ people. They have to do a whole bunch of different stuff. They have to basically make sure that the people qualified legitimately. And when I say legitimately, I honestly don't know what the parameters are for the most part. I feel like we all kind of don't know. I mean, Splash was DQ'd, 3 times last year? Like, nobody really knows what exactly the parameters are for disqualification, but it's an interesting time of the year. Every single year, the first qualifiers are usually the most messy and the most toxic. The reason being, people get their hopes dashed, the game falls apart, everyone typically is upset aside from the 4 people who actually qualified for the most part. There's some people who will pop up here and there and be like, yo, I'm just happy that I got 7th or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty chill, but for the most part, people are mad. This year, no exception. So, if you've been a fan of the channel or followed 2K23 My Team in any way, shape, or form, basically this entire year, then you'll know that the game is in a very interesting place, to say the least, right? The game, let's be real, it's kind of not at the greatest point as far as a gameplay perspectives right now. Pretty much, shooting is difficult, and I know there's a lot of people who are going to say don't touch the shooting, but at this point, I feel like 2K has dug themselves into a hole where they kind of need to touch the shooting because I don't think they're going to be able to fix paint defense in any way, shape, or form. The reason I say that is because typically when you have a yearly cycled game, right? When you have a game that comes out on a year-to-year basis, and I mean this in a very nice way. I don't mean this in a negative way towards the devs because they do as much as they possibly can within a year time frame. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to craft a gameplay experience over a year, right? So how it works typically is while the game's out. So while 22 is out, they're essentially working on the upcoming games of 2K23 using both a build of 2K21 and 2K22 to kind of fix issues, right? That's why when you notice when it comes to 2K specifically, every other year it seems to be the same issues, right? One year, paint defense will be non-existent and rim running is completely the meta. The next year, it feels like shooting is completely overpowered, right? This is why that is the case, because of how they have to work on the games in a year-to-year basis. So the games are kind of slapped together with duct tape, and I mean that, like I said, in a nice way. I don't mean that in a negative way. The dev dudes are work super hard. Crunch is real. They're probably underpaid. It's not really their fault, right? But this is why I bring this up, because I don't think that they can necessarily fix the paint defense in any way, shape, or form this year without catastrophically breaking the game. And this is why you've seen things over the years like corners dropping can't be fixed, or Melo and Paul Pierce's jump shots can't be fixed because they're tied to so many other aspects of the game and how the game plays, within the actual code itself, that if they were to try to fix or try to neutralize something, they could catastrophically destroy the entire game. There's actually been confirmation of this year when they came out and said, look, the reason we don't have normal jump shot timing, we only have very early, late, and very late, is because A, we didn't have time to put it in, and B, because it would catastrophically destroy the game if we were to add or attempt to add normal timing, right? So that's why I believe that there's going to be some sort of shooting buff occurring, because it's really the only way that 2K is going to be able to fix this rim running problem without having to pretty much redo basically their entire game. So we're going to see some sort of, also casuals just straight aren't playing it. Casual is not a negative connotation, but people who play this game in a casual manner straight are not playing this game at this moment. They're not playing this game at the moment, so 2K is going to have to buff this. Yes, in theory, from a 2K head perspective, yes, you can just rim run every possession, but dudes don't want to do that. The way the NBA is currently, your average NBA fan just wants to come out here and stroke threes and stuff. You don't want to do that in any way, shape, or form. Hoff actor, shut up. You don't want to do that. So they're gonna have to buff shooting, but this has caused a lot of reverberations within the community. I'm not gonna start bringing up people fighting on Twitter and as examples. This isn't some Keemstar level stuff over here. I'm not gonna get 2 people on a call and have them hash it out, though that would be hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. But the kind of comp community and I guess the nicest way to say this would be the on the cusp of comp level community are at absolute war right now on Twitter. The reason being they're at war, the comp community took the massive L yesterday. Straight up massive L. Pretty much every one of the major top players or guys who were viewed as being guaranteed lock qualifiers lost in the qualifiers yesterday, whatever. Which is crazy, dude. It's not uncommon for like one or two of those guys to catch a random stray L here and there and be like, okay, well, I'll just qualify next time. That's not really something that is uncommon. It happens every single year, at least a few times. Pretty much every qualifier, you'll see a guy who's viewed as like a top guy, and they'll take a random L at some point, or they'll get error coded, which there's plenty of that yesterday too. But yesterday we saw pretty much every single top player outside of a few of them. And I mean, I'm talking guys who we all pretty much universally assumed would qualify yesterday. Pretty much took an L, dude. Like, which is crazy. And I'm not saying that as like, ha ha ha, yeah, boy, they took an L. I don't care. Like, I'm not one of those super haters, dude. It doesn't matter to me. Like, it's strange that the game is set up in a way where we're seeing top level talent get taken out in a way that is unbefitting of them. It's kind of crazy. That should tell you a lot about how the game currently plays. Now, the skill gap that everyone talked about, everyone praised the skill gap for the first 2 weeks of the game's launch. Like, oh yeah, we finally got a skill gap in 2K. We finally got a skill gap in 2K. It's not looking like that's the case anymore. The reason being, there is a skill gap in shooting, and shooting alone. But the qualifiers were played on pro for some reason, so pro difficulty is what they played on. And that's pretty strange, because just playing a regular game of Unlimited is on basically Hoff. Essentially Superstar really is kind of what it is, but like they lowered down the difficulty, which is one thing, but what that unintentionally did was it made an already unstoppable kind of rim running and paint situation historically worse. Like, there is absolutely no skill gap to mashing. We've seen guys, like, there was games that I was watching yesterday where Amethyst Theo Ratliff was taking down some of the best cards in the game. The MVPs of the tournament yesterday, you would think they would have been guys like Jermaine O'Neal or guys who were viewed as like traditionally good cards. No. No. The MVP cards of yesterday were Pink Diamond Russell Westbrook on current gen, who was absolutely unstoppable. He pretty much dunked on every single person, period. Like, it was absolute insanity, dude. There's no way to really stop Russell Westbrook this year. Same with Derrick Rose to a certain extent, but Russell Westbrook I think is a little bit worse, because Russell Westbrook will either dunk or get fouled every single time he drives. All you have to do is hold turbo, and then once you get close enough, just hold down that X button or dunk meter, and you are pretty much guaranteed 2 points every single time. Other MVPs, I have to say Theo Ratliff, because I saw some dudes running Theo Ratliff yesterday that were absolutely cooking the best cards in the game, just straight pump faking under under the hoop, which is insane, dude. I saw a couple Bob McAdoo's popping off yesterday as well. Sean Livingston was out here popping off a little bit as well. It's nuts. And Sabonis is probably the guy. People on Next Gen were just straight mashing with Sabonis all day. I watched a couple games yesterday where, I'm not kidding, every single possession they played out of the post. And not in the way that you would think, like not in like a 90s basketball sense. More just like a back down, pump fake. Okay, they didn't bite, kick out to a shooter if they collapsed. Every single game that I watched. What do you think? Is there complaining? Yes, I believe that there is, because the game, I don't think anybody realized how broken the game was until yesterday. That being said, kind of content creators that aren't very good at the game, like myself, who are kind of used to like losing on a consistent basis, I think we all figured out pretty early on that the mashing was going to be kind of an issue, and that honestly it was going to be such an issue that no matter how good you were at the game, if you weren't mashing too, you were going to lose, right? If somebody's been doing that since day one and they're really good at it and they can green consistent jump shots, they're almost unbeatable at a certain point, right? I've known that since probably the first week of the game. Like, I'm like, yeah, dude, if somebody's got that mash down and they're willing to commit to that mash lifestyle, dude, they're going to be near impossible to beat. It does not matter how good you are. To a certain extent, I still thought guys like Ty and Splash would be able to dig themselves out, but no, that's not the case. I do think the complaining is justified, mainly because I think the competitive guys have realized once and for all that this part of the game is so wildly overpowered that even them being as good as they are, they're not going to be able to dig themselves out unless they bow to the meta and do the exact same thing. Which, by the way, look, we're going to see the same thing. Also, yeah, Ty lost to like his friend, so it's like not that crazy. I think they run scrims all the time. It's not insane to see Ty lose. But we also realized pretty quickly that there may or may not be skill-based matchmaking baked in to the actual qualifiers, which is kind of funny. Like, it's kind of funny, honestly. Like, it's interesting because, I mean, we've seen guys who hop in with a kind of a god squad that don't really play this game that often. They're getting matched up with absolute garbage, dude. And then we're seeing guys who are really good at this game consistently matching up with each other, which I find to be really, really interesting. Pink Diamond Allen Iverson was cooking, dude. Yeah, they play the same style. They've played each other for years. They're like friends. So it's not really surprising to see Ty lose like that. This game doesn't fit someone like Ty's playstyle where he relies very heavily on, and he's the best at it. It's not even a question. He's the best at speeding up the game and causing issues, right? But if the gameplay is more meta-sized towards slow play and paint mashing where you don't actively lose the ball very often, it's going to be very difficult to roll three. Like, it's going to be hard to roll three-pointers. It's going to be hard to really do anything. But we got people fighting it out on Twitter, which honestly, that happens after every qualifier. Like, every qualifier, people start getting into massive Twitter beefs. Like, every time. It's honestly my favorite time of the year. It's like Christmas for me. I'll go on Twitter after qualifiers, and I'll just watch people start fighting, dude. Which, honestly, it was pretty bad yesterday. It was pretty terrible, man. People were going hard on each other. I'm not going to say specifics or anything, but people were going super hard for no reason, and it was interesting. Now, the fact of the matter is, like I said, either one of two things are going to happen, right? Those top guys that are always kind of in this mix, they're going to adapt. They're going to build their teams into mash squads. And they're going to be back next qualifier, and they're going to play the same way as everybody else, and they're going to decimate them. And that's probably what's going to happen. Like, facts. Like, that's what's going to go on. Or 2K is going to implement some sort of patch, and they're going to buff shooting to the point where it's probably going to be pretty similar to last year, where you can pretty much white any open shot at any given opportunity. Look, it is what it is, right? The tournament's in a bad place right now due to the fact that the people want to watch are mad at it. Now, is that necessarily a bad thing for the health of the mode? No, not necessarily, but the reason I bring it up is 2K does understand things to a certain extent. They do get things, right? They know that the viewership on the tournament is going to be up if you got guys like Splash and Ty actually in the tournament itself. Sorry, yeah. But, like, so they're either going to make caveats or they're going to keep it the way it is, and they're going to let people know that it's going to stay the way that it is. So, I don't know. Wild day regardless, for sure. Also, shout out to Fiji, dude. You went pretty hard. I just wanted to say that. I need a free Matthew Dellavedova card. I like that. Matthew Dellavedova was such a go.